My name is Austin Pierce, and I need to tell you about the night my marriage died in front of 2.1 million strangers. It was February 8th, a Thursday evening that started like any other in our Franklin, Tennessee home. The smell of Carla's leftover lasagna still lingered in the kitchen, Madison's art supplies scattered across the dining table where she'd been working on a Valentine for her first grade class. Our 6-year-old was finally asleep after an epic bedtime negotiation involving 3 stories and a promise that yes, we could visit the zoo this weekend. Carla had texted around 6 saying she'd be late. Another client dinner, something about securing a big contract for the hotel chain where she worked as an event coordinator. Nothing unusual there. Her job had been demanding more evening meetings lately, especially since January when she'd expanded into talent relations. Nashville's music scene never slept, and neither, apparently, did the people who planned events around it. I settled into our leather sectional with my laptop, intending to review some security protocols for my healthcare tech company. Instead, I found myself mindlessly scrolling through TikTok, that dangerous rabbit hole that had become my end-of-day ritual. The algorithm knew me well enough. Cybersecurity tips, dad jokes, Nashville local content, and the occasional music video from Broadway. The video that changed everything appeared innocuously enough in my For You feed. The preview showed the stage on Broadway, one of Nashville's iconic honky-tonks. Nothing remarkable about that. Half my feed was Nashville content. But something made me tap to watch. 2 people stood on the small stage, bathed in warm amber lighting. The woman wore a flowing black dress that hugged her curves, her dark hair cascading over one shoulder. The man beside her was younger, maybe late 20s, with perfectly styled brown hair and the kind of confident stage presence that suggested he belonged there. They were singing Islands in the Stream, their voices blending in a harmony that spoke of practice, of familiarity, of something deeper than casual karaoke. I was admiring their chemistry when recognition hit me like a freight train. The woman was my wife. My thumb froze on the screen. I rewound the video, watching again as Carla, my Carla, gazed into this stranger's eyes while singing about finding someone who makes you feel like you're on an island in the stream. The way she looked at him, the subtle lean of her body toward his, the smile that reached her eyes in a way I hadn't seen directed at me in months. And then came the ending. As the final notes faded, the man cupped Carla's face in his hands and kissed her. Not a friendly peck, not an awkward stage moment. A real kiss, passionate and lingering, while the crowd erupted in cheers and wolf whistles. I stared at the screen, my IT-trained mind automatically noting the details even as my heart hammered against my ribs. 2.1 million views, 180,000 likes, 47,000 comments. The comments were brutal in their innocence. Relationship goals, they're so cute together. Nashville power couple, get you someone who looks at you like this. I want what they have. The chemistry is insane. Wife material right there, lucky guy. Wife material. The irony would have been funny if my world wasn't currently imploding. I checked the posting date. January 18th, 3 weeks ago. The same night Carla had told me she was attending a hotel industry conference downtown, the one that supposedly ran until midnight with networking cocktails. My hands shook as I screenshotted the video, the comments, the engagement metrics. My cybersecurity background kicked in automatically. Preserve the evidence. Document everything. Maintain chain of custody. But this wasn't a data breach or a network intrusion. This was my marriage, publicly executed in front of millions of strangers who thought they were watching true love. I spent the next 2 hours in my home office, using every digital investigation technique I knew. Social media deep dives, reverse image searches, metadata analysis. The rabbit hole went deeper than I imagined. Brandon Reed. That was his name, according to tagged posts across multiple platforms. 29 years old, talent booking agent for several major Nashville venues. Originally from Manchester, England, working in the US on an O1 artist visa. His Instagram was a carefully curated mix of backstage photos, venue partnerships, and networking events. And increasingly, photos featuring my wife. I found them together at the Bluebird Cafe, tagged by other users. A group shot at Tootsie's Orchid Lounge where Carla's hand rested on Brandon's shoulder. A video from Prince's Hot Chicken where they shared a basket of wings, laughing at some private joke. The digital breadcrumbs painted a clear picture of a relationship that had been developing for months while I thought my wife was building her career. The front door opened at 11:47 p.m. I'd been tracking time obsessively, the way I did when monitoring system logs for security breaches. Carla's heels clicked against the hardwood as she dropped her purse on the kitchen counter. "Hey, babe," she called softly, mindful of Madison's bedroom down the hall. "Sorry I'm so late. The client dinner ran forever, but I think we landed the Music City Center contract." I remained in my office chair, laptop open. The viral video paused on the moment of their kiss. When she appeared in the doorway, she looked tired but pleased with herself. Her makeup was refreshed. I noticed that now, the way her lipstick was too perfect for someone who'd been eating dinner for hours. "How was your evening?" she asked, beginning to unbutton her blazer. "Madison go down okay?" "Carla," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "You need to see something." I turned the laptop screen toward her. Her reflection caught in the black mirror of the paused video, her face suspended above the image of herself kissing another man. "What is this?" Her voice was carefully neutral, but I caught the flash of panic in her eyes. "You tell me. You're in a viral TikTok video. 2.1 million views and counting. Singing a love duet with someone who definitely isn't your husband. Kissing him at the end while a crowd cheers." I pressed play. We watched together as her digital doppelganger gazed adoringly at Brandon Reed, as their voices harmonized, as they kissed with the passion of lovers who thought their secret was safe in a darkened honky-tonk. When it ended, the silence stretched between us like a chasm. "Austin, I can explain." "Can you?" "Because I've got the date right here. January 18th. The night you claimed to be at a hotel industry conference. The night you said ran until midnight with networking cocktails." I scrolled to the comments section. "Except instead of networking, you were performing for strangers who think your relationship goals. Look at this. 47,000 comments from people celebrating your chemistry with this guy." Carla sank into the chair across from my desk, her face pale in the blue light of the laptop screen. "It's not what it looks like." "Really? Because it looks like my wife of 8 years singing love songs and kissing another man in front of millions of people. What exactly am I misunderstanding?" He's a business contact, a booking agent. I work with him on talent acquisition for events." Business contact. I opened another browser tab, showing her the compilation of photos I'd found. "Is this business too? And this? And this one where his hand is on your lower back at the Ryman?" Each image was a punch to the gut, but her reaction told me everything. The way her shoulders sagged, the defeat creeping into her posture. She knew she was caught, and worse, she knew the evidence was public. "How long?" I asked quietly. "Austin." "How long, Carla?" The photos go back to October. 4 months of lies. 4 months of you coming home to Madison and me after… what? After dates? After hotel rooms? After falling in love with someone else? She was crying now, but they felt like tears of frustration rather than remorse. You don't understand the pressure I'm under at work. The networking requirements, the social expectations. Don't! I closed the laptop, the room plunging into darkness except for the hallway light. Don't make this about work pressure. This video shows someone who's happy, Carla. Genuinely happy in a way I haven't seen you look at me in years. That's not networking. That's not career advancement. That's you in love with someone else. She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. What happens now? I don't know. But I do know that 2.1 million people have watched my wife kiss another man, and that number is going up every minute. Whatever we do next, we're doing it in public. I left her in the office and went to check on Madison, who was sleeping peacefully in her room, unaware that her world was about to change. Her nightlight cast gentle stars across the ceiling, and I found myself thinking about how to protect her from the digital storm that was coming. Because the thing about viral content is that it never really goes away. Screenshots live forever. Videos get downloaded and re-uploaded. Comments get archived. Somewhere in the vast digital ecosystem, my marriage was being celebrated by strangers as a love story while simultaneously destroying itself in real time. The next morning, Carla was gone before I woke up. She'd left a note saying she was staying at her sister's place to think. Madison asked where Mommy was, and I found myself lying to my daughter for the first time, saying she had to travel for work. I called in sick and spent the day doing what I do best: digital forensics. By noon, I had a complete timeline of Carla and Brandon's relationship, mapped through social media posts, location check-ins, and public photos. The evidence was damning, and more importantly, it was permanent. The video had been shared across platforms: Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, Twitter clips, each with their own comment threads, their own audience celebrating what they saw as authentic Nashville romance. The stage on Broadway's official accounts had featured it prominently, and other Nashville venues were sharing it as an example of their romantic atmosphere. That afternoon, my phone rang. Rebecca Martinez, a family attorney I'd found through online research, specializing in cases involving social media evidence. Mr. Pierce, I received your inquiry about representation. I have to say, in 15 years of family law, I've never seen documentation quite like this. A viral video with millions of views essentially serves as public testimony. Are you looking to proceed with divorce proceedings? I think I have to, I said, watching Madison color at the kitchen table. My question is whether the viral nature of this affects anything legally. In Tennessee, it certainly can. We allow fault-based divorce on grounds of adultery, which can affect spousal support determinations. The fact that this evidence is publicly viewable by millions of people doesn't diminish its validity. If anything, it establishes authenticity in a way private photos or messages couldn't. That evening, Carla returned. She looked exhausted, her usual put-together appearance replaced by wrinkled clothes and smudged makeup. Madison ran to hug her, and for a moment, we were a family again. Then reality reasserted itself. After putting Madison to bed, we sat at our kitchen table like strangers. I tried to get the video removed, Carla said without preamble. The stage won't take it down. Something about licensing agreements and promotional content. Even if they did, it's been downloaded and reposted everywhere. I know. I've been tracking it all day. 3 platforms, dozens of reposts, 500,000 total views across all versions. She looked up sharply. You've been tracking it? It's what I do, Carla. Data analysis, digital investigation. Did you think I wouldn't examine every piece of evidence? Your entire relationship with Brandon is documented online. 4 months of photos, check-ins, tagged locations. A complete digital trail of an affair. Austin, please. I talked to a lawyer today. The words hung between us like a blade. She'd known it were coming, but hearing it made it real. What about Madison? What about her? You should have thought about Madison before you decided to perform your affair for a crowd. You should have thought about her before you chose to prioritize your, whatever this is, over your family. Carla's phone buzzed against the table. She glanced at it, and her face went white. What now? I asked. My boss. He wants to see me first thing Monday morning. I wasn't surprised. A viral video featuring a company's event coordinator kissing someone who wasn't her husband at a Nashville venue would naturally raise questions about professional conduct and company image. Carla, help me understand something. When you were up there singing with him, when you kissed him in front of all those people, what did you think would happen? Did you think it would stay private? Did you think no one would ever see it? She was crying again, and this time it looked like remorse. I don't know. I wasn't thinking. Brandon said the venue always posts content, but I never thought it would get this big. But you did it anyway. You got up there and performed intimacy with another man because, in that moment, that felt more important than protecting your marriage or your daughter's future. That's not fair. Fair, I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to talk about fair? Our daughter is going to grow up knowing that millions of strangers watched her mother choose someone else. That video is permanent, Carla. When Madison is old enough to Google her parents, she's going to find footage of the night her family fell apart, complete with comment threads celebrating how perfect you and Brandon look together. The conversation devolved from there. Accusations, justifications, tears, and ultimately, the cold logistics of separation. Carla would continue staying at her sister's. I would have primary custody during the divorce proceedings. We would somehow explain to Madison why Mommy wasn't living at home anymore. Monday morning brought news that complicated everything further. Carla's termination was swift and decisive. The hotel chain cited policy violations regarding personal conduct affecting business relationships and company reputation. Brandon, meanwhile, lost 3 major clients who didn't want their events associated with the viral scandal. His visa situation became precarious. The O1 requires employer sponsorship, and his booking agency terminated his contract to protect their own business relationships. Without a sponsor, he had limited time to find new employment or face deportation back to the UK. The Nashville entertainment industry is smaller than people realize. Word travels fast, especially when that word is accompanied by a viral video that everyone has already seen. Venue managers, event planners, talent agents, they all knew the story before Carla or Brandon could offer their own version of events. I felt a complex mix of emotions watching their professional lives implode. Satisfaction, yes, but also a strange sadness. These weren't evil people. They were human beings who had made choices that prioritized short-term happiness over long-term consequences, and now those consequences were playing out in the most public way possible. Madison, thankfully, remained insulated from the drama. At 6, She had no social media presence, no smartphone, no way of stumbling across the video that was reshaping her world. Her questions about why mommy wasn't home were heartbreaking but manageable. "Is mommy coming back?" she asked one evening as I tucked her in. "Mommy loves you very much," I said carefully. "Sometimes grown-ups need to live in different places for a while, but that doesn't change how much we love you. But she'll still be my mommy. Always. No matter what happens between mommy and daddy, you'll always be our little girl." It was true, even as my heart broke saying it. Whatever Carla had done to our marriage, she was still Madison's mother. The divorce would be about dividing assets and determining custody, not erasing relationships. The legal process moved quickly, aided by the comprehensive digital evidence and Tennessee's clear stance on fault-based divorce. Rebecca Martinez proved to be worth every penny, methodically building a case that was both compelling and ironclad. "I've seen couples try to hide affairs for months during proceedings," she explained during one of our meetings. "Usually it's a matter of private investigators, hidden financial records, secret communications. Your case is unique because the affair is public record, witnessed by millions of people. There's no disputing timeline, no questioning authenticity, no debate about intent." The custody evaluation was more complex but ultimately favorable. My consistent work-from-home schedule, stable income, and Madison's clear comfort in our home environment all weighed in my favor. Carla's unemployment and housing instability, while consequences of her own choices, nonetheless affected her ability to provide stability during a difficult transition. The financial implications were stark. Carla had lost an $85,000 salary, faced expensive legal representation she could barely afford, and had limited prospects in Nashville's tight-knit entertainment industry. Her professional reputation was permanently linked to the viral video, making it difficult to secure positions requiring client trust and corporate responsibility. Brandon's situation was even worse. His entertainment industry career was effectively over, at least in Nashville. The visa complications meant he was facing deportation unless he could quickly secure alternative sponsorship. His social media presence, once a professional asset showcasing his industry connections, now primarily featured the viral video that had destroyed his career. 3 months after the TikTok discovery, our divorce was finalized. I retained primary custody of Madison, kept our Franklin home, and received a favorable asset division. Carla was granted weekend visitation and minimal spousal support, with the court noting that her employment difficulties were largely self-inflicted consequences of conduct that violated both professional ethics and marital obligations. The community response was overwhelmingly supportive. Our neighbors, Madison's school, even my co-workers at the healthcare tech company rallied around us during the transition. There's something to be said for having clear digital evidence of wrongdoing. It eliminates the usual speculation and gossip that accompanies divorce proceedings. Madison adapted remarkably well to our new routine. Kids are resilient, and with consistent care and honest, age-appropriate communication, she adjusted to the reality of 2 homes and weekend visits with mommy. Her questions became less frequent and more focused on practical matters than emotional processing. The viral video, meanwhile, continued its digital life. 9 months later, it had accumulated over 3.2 million views across all platforms. New comments appeared regularly, often from people discovering it for the first time. The original posting date and location data remained intact, a permanent timestamp of the moment my marriage ended. Carla eventually found work in Memphis, far enough from Nashville to escape the immediate industry gossip, but close enough for regular visits with Madison. Event planning, but corporate rather than entertainment-focused. Lower salary, longer hours, a significant step backward in career trajectory. She seemed diminished whenever she picked up Madison, like someone trying to rebuild an identity from scattered pieces. Brandon disappeared from social media entirely after his visa was revoked. I heard through industry contacts that he'd returned to Manchester, working in a completely different field. The American dream that had brought him to Nashville's music scene was over, ended by a 3-minute video that captured a moment of passion and broadcasted it to the world. For me, the aftermath brought unexpected growth. My healthcare tech company promoted me to senior security analyst with a substantial salary increase. My crisis management during the personal drama, combined with my digital investigation skills, had impressed leadership in ways I hadn't anticipated. More importantly, I began dating again. Taylor Kim, a pediatric nurse at Vanderbilt Children's Hospital, understood both the demands of parenting and the importance of stability in a child's life. Our relationship developed slowly, with Madison's comfort and adjustment taking priority over romantic timelines. Madison adored Taylor from their first meeting. There was no competition with Mommy, no confusion about roles, just genuine affection for someone who brought laughter and warmth to our home. Taylor's medical background made her naturally attuned to children's emotional needs, and she never tried to replace Carla, but simply added joy to our daily routines. 1 year after the viral discovery, I was invited to speak at a cybersecurity conference about digital privacy and family protection. Standing at the podium, looking out at an audience of IT professionals, I reflected on the strange journey that had brought me there. The digital age has made privacy both more important and more difficult to maintain, I told them. Social media algorithms are designed to surface content that engages us, but sometimes that content reveals truths we weren't prepared to face. In my case, TikTok's For You page served up a video that saved my family by revealing a truth I needed to know. I talked about the technical aspects, metadata preservation, platform licensing agreements, the permanence of viral content. But I also shared the human element, the shock of recognition, the complexity of evidence gathering while emotionally processing betrayal, the importance of protecting children from digital exposure they couldn't understand. The video that ended my marriage had 2.1 million views when I discovered it, I concluded. Today, it has over 3.2 million. Somewhere in that data are lessons about authenticity, consequences, and the reality that in our connected world, private moments can become public testimony. The technology didn't create the problem. It simply revealed what was already there. That evening, Taylor and Madison met me at Madison's school tech fair, where I was volunteering as part of the technology committee. Madison had built a simple circuit board that made LEDs flash in patterns, and she was proudly explaining the basics of electrical flow to anyone who would listen. "My daddy knows all about computers," she announced to a group of classmates. "He keeps the bad guys from hacking into hospitals and protects people's information." Taylor smiled at me over Madison's head. "Your daughter is going to be an engineer." "Maybe. Or maybe she'll do something we haven't even imagined yet." Technology changes so fast. "Do you ever regret it?" Taylor asked quietly. "The way everything happened? The public nature of it all?" I considered the question, watching Madison demonstrate her circuit to another parent. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that Madison will grow up knowing her parents' marriage ended publicly. But I don't regret learning the truth. even though it came through a viral video. And if the video had never been posted, if you'd never seen it, then I'd probably still be married to someone who was living a double life. Madison would be growing up in a household built on deception. Maybe that's worse than growing up knowing her father fought for honesty and stability. We walked home through Franklin's quiet streets, Madison skipping ahead while Taylor and I followed hand in hand. The February air carried hints of spring, and I found myself thinking about new beginnings and second chances. That night, after Madison was asleep and Taylor had gone to her own apartment, I sat in my home office, the same room where I'd first watched my marriage dissolve in digital format. The viral video was still out there, still accumulating views and comments, a permanent monument to the night everything changed. I didn't watch it anymore. There was no point in revisiting that moment of discovery, that shock of recognition when I realized the woman singing love songs to another man was my wife. The important thing was what came after, the choice to pursue truth over comfortable denial, stability over the chaos of ongoing deception. My phone buzzed with a text from Taylor. "Had such a nice time tonight. Madison is incredible and watching you two together makes me happy. Sweet dreams." I smiled, typing back, "Thank you for being part of our story. The best chapters are still being written." Outside, Nashville's skyline glittered in the distance, the city's music continuing its eternal rhythm. Somewhere in those honky-tonks and venues, other people were making choices that would ripple through their lives in ways they couldn't imagine. Some of those choices would remain private, forgotten moments in darkened bars. Others would be captured, shared, and transformed into viral content that outlived the emotions that created them. The digital age had given me evidence of betrayal, but it had also given me tools for building something better. My cybersecurity skills had protected my interests during the divorce. Social media had introduced me to Taylor through mutual friends. Technology that had revealed pain had also facilitated healing. Madison's voice came softly from her bedroom. "Daddy, can you check on me?" I found her sitting up in bed, rubbing sleepy eyes. "Bad dream, sweetheart." "No, just wanted to make sure you were still here." "I'm always here. That's not changing." She settled back under her covers, and I adjusted her nightlight to cast those familiar stars across the ceiling. This was stability. This was the life I'd fought to preserve and protect. Not the marriage that had become a performance, but the authentic connection between a father and daughter who trusted each other. 2 years later, Taylor and I were engaged. Madison served as ring bearer, solemnly carrying the bands down the aisle with the same focus she brought to her science projects. Carla attended the ceremony, having found her own path toward rebuilding her life in Memphis. There was no animosity, no drama, just two adults who had learned to co-parent effectively despite the spectacular failure of their marriage. The viral video still existed, though it rarely appeared in anyone's feed anymore. The algorithm had moved on to newer content, fresher scandals, different stories of love and betrayal and human complexity, but it remained accessible to anyone who searched for it, a digital artifact of a moment when private choices became public entertainment. Sometimes, late at night, I wondered what would have happened if that video had never been filmed, or if the venue hadn't posted it, or if TikTok's algorithm had served me different content that February evening. Would I have discovered the affair through other means? Would it have continued indefinitely? Would Madison have grown up in a household where one parent was living a lie? The questions were unanswerable and ultimately irrelevant. The video existed, the truth was revealed, and the consequences had played out according to choices made by all parties involved. What mattered was the life we'd built afterward, honest, stable, and grounded in authentic connections rather than digital performance. Madison, now 8, had inherited both my analytical mind and Carla's social intelligence. She approached problems methodically but understood people intuitively. When her friends asked about her parents' divorce, she explained matter-of-factly that sometimes grown-ups make mistakes and have to live separately. But that didn't change how much they loved their children. "Do you miss Mommy and Daddy being married?" I asked her once, during one of our regular check-ins about her emotional state. "Sometimes," she said thoughtfully, "but I like that you're happy now. And I like Taylor. And Mommy seems happier too when she visits. Maybe everyone is better this way." Out of the mouths of babes. Madison had processed the family reorganization with remarkable wisdom, accepting that love could take different forms and that sometimes difficult changes led to better outcomes. The Nashville music scene had moved on as well. The stage on Broadway still featured karaoke nights, though they'd implemented stricter policies about filming performances without explicit consent. Other venues had followed suit, recognizing that viral content could be a double-edged sword for both businesses and customers. Brandon's story reached me through industry contacts occasionally. He'd eventually found work in Manchester's growing music scene, building a new career foundation far from the viral video that had destroyed his American opportunities. There was something to be said for geographic fresh starts, for the ability to rebuild identity in places where your past mistakes weren't constantly referenced. Carla had found similar renewal in Memphis. Her event planning business was smaller scale but successful, built on corporate clients who valued discretion and professionalism over entertainment industry connections. She'd learned to compartmentalize her work and personal life, understanding finally that professional networking shouldn't include romantic entanglements that could compromise both spheres. For my part, I'd become something of an expert on digital privacy and family protection, speaking regularly at conferences and consulting with other parents navigating the complex intersection of technology and personal life. The irony wasn't lost on me that the public destruction of my marriage had led to a career helping others protect their private information. The internet never forgets, I would tell audiences, but humans can learn to forgive, to rebuild, to create new stories that overshadow old mistakes. The key is understanding that in the digital age, authenticity isn't just morally preferable, it's practically necessary. The truth will come out eventually, so you might as well build your life on honest foundations. 3 years after the viral discovery, Madison asked to see the video. She was old enough to understand basic concepts of marriage and divorce, and she'd heard references to it from classmates who'd overheard parent conversations. We sat together in my office, the same room where I'd first discovered Carla's affair. Madison watched solemnly as her mother sang and kissed another man, her young face serious with concentration. "That's why you got divorced?" she asked when it ended. "That's when I learned that Mommy was in love with someone else. The divorce happened because we couldn't figure out how to be married after that." "Were you sad?" "Very sad, but also relieved to finally understand why Mommy seemed unhappy at home." Madison nodded thoughtfully. "I'm glad you found out. Otherwise, you might never have met Taylor, and I really like our family now." Her acceptance was both heartbreaking and healing. She'd processed the video not as a betrayal or scandal, but as a piece of family history that had led to current happiness. Children's resilience never ceased to amaze me. The video itself had become a case study in several academic contexts. Media studies professors used it to discuss viral content creation and platform algorithms. Legal scholars referenced it in papers about digital evidence in family law. Psychology researchers cited it in studies about social media's impact on relationship dynamics. None of these academic discussions captured the human reality of watching your marriage end in real time, but they served important purposes in helping others understand the broader implications of our connected world. If my personal pain could contribute to knowledge that helped other families navigate similar challenges, perhaps there was meaning in the public nature of our private catastrophe. Taylor and I married in the same church where Carla and I had exchanged vows 8 years earlier. The symbolism was intentional, not an erasure of the past, but an affirmation that spaces could hold multiple stories, that endings could become beginnings, that love could triumph even after betrayal. Madison walked me down the aisle, having declared that she wanted to give Daddy away, just like fathers traditionally did for daughters. Her small hand in mine provided strength and perspective as we approached the altar where Taylor waited, radiant in a simple white dress that reflected her unpretentious nature. The ceremony was small but meaningful, attended by family and friends who had supported us through the difficult transition years. Carla's presence was a gift to Madison, demonstrating that adults could prioritize children's needs over their own discomfort. During the reception, my best man, a cybersecurity colleague who had supported me through the divorce, gave a toast that captured the journey perfectly. They say the internet is forever, and that's true. But what's also true is that humans are remarkably good at writing new stories, at creating fresh chapters that overshadow previous ones. Austin's first marriage ended publicly, but his second marriage is beginning with the same publicity: celebration instead of scandal, joy instead of betrayal. The medium didn't change, but the message is completely different. As Taylor and I danced to our first song, At Last, by Etta James, I reflected on the strange path that had led to this moment. The viral video still existed somewhere in the digital ecosystem, probably being discovered by new viewers who would never know the full story behind those 3 minutes of captured intimacy. But it no longer defined my life or Madison's future. The real victory wasn't in the divorce settlement or custody arrangement or even in finding love again. It was in learning that truth, however painful its delivery method, was preferable to living in comfortable deception. The TikTok algorithm that had served up my wife's affair had also, inadvertently, served up my liberation. Madison caught the bouquet, laughing as older female relatives protested the unfairness of her quick reflexes. At 8 years old, she was too young to understand the tradition, but old enough to enjoy being part of the celebration. Her presence at our wedding wasn't just symbolically important, it was practically essential, the foundation upon which Taylor and I had built our relationship. Later that evening, after guests had departed and Madison was asleep in her flower girl dress, Taylor and I sat on our back porch, watching fireflies begin their summer dance across the Franklin landscape. "Do you think she'll remember today more than the divorce?" Taylor asked, meaning Madison. "I hope so. But even if she doesn't, she'll remember that we chose honesty over convenience, stability over drama. That's the lesson I want her to take into her own relationships." Taylor's hand found mine in the darkness. "The video really did save your family, didn't it? Just not in the way anyone would have expected. It revealed the truth. What we did with that truth is what saved us." 5 years later, I received an unexpected message through LinkedIn. Brandon Reed, reaching out from Manchester where he'd rebuilt his life in artist management. The message was brief but sincere. "Austin, I know this may seem strange after all these years, but I wanted to apologize for my role in your family's difficulties. I've done a lot of thinking about choices and consequences, and I realize that my actions caused real harm to people who didn't deserve it. I hope you and Madison are doing well. I also hope Carla has found peace. The mistakes we made had public consequences, but that doesn't diminish the private pain we caused. I'm truly sorry. I showed the message to Taylor, who read it twice before responding. Are you going to reply? I think so. Not for his benefit, but for mine. Forgiveness doesn't require relationship, but it does require release. My response was equally brief. Brandon, thank you for reaching out. The situation was painful at the time, but it led to positive changes for everyone involved. Madison and I are doing very well, and I hope your life in Manchester has brought you fulfillment. Sometimes difficult experiences teach us what we really value. I wish you continued success. I didn't mention that the viral video had become a cornerstone of my professional speaking career, or that our story was frequently referenced in academic discussions about digital privacy and relationship ethics. Those details weren't relevant to the human element of forgiveness and moving forward. Madison, now 10, had developed her own relationship with technology that balanced engagement with privacy. She understood that digital actions had permanent consequences, that social media could be both connecting and destructive, that authenticity was more valuable than performance. Dad, why do people post private stuff online? She asked one evening while working on a school project about digital citizenship. Sometimes they want attention or validation. Sometimes they don't realize how public really is. Sometimes they're not thinking about long-term consequences because they're focused on short-term emotions. Like Mommy and Brandon in the video? Exactly like that. They were feeling something in the moment and acted on it without considering how it might affect other people or their own futures. Madison nodded solemnly. I'm going to be really careful about what I post when I get social media accounts. That's smart. But also remember that being careful doesn't mean being fake. The goal is authentic sharing that you'd be comfortable with anyone seeing, including your future self. These conversations had become routine in our household, part of preparing Madison for a digital world that would only become more complex as she grew older. The viral video that had destroyed one family structure had also provided invaluable teaching moments for building a stronger one. Carla's visits had settled into a comfortable routine that prioritized Madison's emotional well-being over adult comfort levels. She and Taylor maintained polite, cooperative communication focused on scheduling and Madison's needs. There was no friendship, but there was functional co-parenting that allowed Madison to love both her mothers without conflict. During one particularly successful weekend visit, Madison returned home excited about a science museum trip she'd taken with Carla in Memphis. Mom says she's proud of how smart I am, and that I get my brain from both of you, she reported. She also says Taylor is really good for our family. It was progress. Carla's acknowledgement that her daughter's happiness was more important than any lingering resentment or awkwardness about the new family structure. Growth was possible, even after public failure, when people prioritized the right things. The Nashville music scene continued evolving, with new technologies creating fresh opportunities for both connection and complication. Live streaming, social media integration, and user-generated content had become standard features of entertainment venues, each carrying the potential for both promotion and embarrassment. The stage on Broadway, where the original video had been filmed, now featured prominent signage about recording policies and consent requirements. Other venues had followed suit, recognizing that customer privacy was as important as promotional content for long-term business success. My cybersecurity work had expanded to include consulting for entertainment venues about digital privacy and content management. The irony was rich. The industry that had inadvertently destroyed my marriage now paid me to help them protect other people's privacy. Full circle, in a way that felt like justice rather than revenge. Madison's 10th birthday party was held at our home, with friends from school, family members, and Taylor's nursing colleagues all celebrating together. Carla attended, bringing a thoughtfully chosen gift and participating in the festivities without drama or awkwardness. Watching Madison blow out her candles, surrounded by people who loved her unconditionally, I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the path that had brought us here. The viral video still existed somewhere in the digital universe, but it had become background noise to the actual music of our lives. "What did you wish for?" Taylor asked Madison as she cut the first piece of cake. "I can't tell you, or it won't come true," Madison replied seriously. "But it's something good for everyone I love." 10 years old and already understanding that happiness was most meaningful when shared. Whatever challenges the future brought, Madison was equipped with wisdom that went far beyond her years, forged through experience but tempered with love and stability. That evening, after guests had departed and Madison had gone to bed clutching her new microscope from Taylor, I found myself back in my office, not seeking out the viral video, but simply reflecting on the journey it had initiated. The woman in that video, my former wife, Madison's mother, someone I had loved deeply, was living her own life now, building new relationships and professional success in Memphis. The man beside her had returned to England and created a different existence entirely. The venue where they'd performed had hosted thousands of other events, creating countless new memories that overshadowed that single night. But the consequences of that 3-minute performance continued rippling outward in positive ways. Madison's understanding of authenticity and consequences. My career helping other families protect their digital privacy. Taylor's integration into our lives bringing healing and joy. Academic research that might help future families navigate similar challenges. Pain had become purpose. Betrayal had become wisdom. Public humiliation had become private strength. The viral video that had ended one story had become the foundation for several better ones. My phone buzzed with a text from Taylor, who was working a night shift at the hospital. "Madison asleep? How was the party cleanup?" "She's out cold, still holding her microscope. Cleanup wasn't bad with all the help. Thank you for making her birthday so special." "She makes everything special. Can't wait to see what she discovers with that microscope. Love you both." "Love you too. See you in the morning." I turned off the office light and headed upstairs, checking on Madison one final time. She was indeed asleep with her arms wrapped around the microscope box, her face peaceful in the glow of her star-patterned nightlight. Tomorrow, she would begin exploring the invisible world of cells and microorganisms, approaching the unknown with curiosity rather than fear. In the master bedroom, I prepared for sleep while reflecting on the strange journey that had brought us to this place of contentment. The viral video continued its digital existence, discovered occasionally by new viewers who saw only a romantic moment between strangers. They couldn't know the full story. The marriage it ended, the family it initially fractured, the healing it ultimately enabled. But perhaps that was appropriate. Social media showed fragments, not complete narratives. Moments, not life cycles. The 3 minutes of singing and kissing that had gone viral represented one choice, one night, one consequence. The years of rebuilding, growth, and new love that followed weren't captured in any video, but they were more real and more important than anything the algorithm could surface. As I drifted towards sleep, I thought about Madison's birthday wish. Something good for everyone she loved. At 10 years old, she understood that happiness was interconnected, that her well-being was tied to the well-being of all the adults in her life. Whatever she had wished for, it was probably already coming true in ways she couldn't yet recognize. The viral video had taught us that private moments could become public entertainment, that choices had consequences beyond immediate circumstances, that authenticity was more valuable than performance. But the real education had come in the years afterward, learning that families could be rebuilt stronger than before, that love could triumph over betrayal, that truth was always preferable to comfortable deception. The algorithm that had served up my wife's affair had also, inadvertently, served up my salvation. Not through the pain of discovery, but through the choices we made in response to that pain. Technology had revealed the problem, but human wisdom had created the solution. And somewhere in the vast digital ecosystem, the video continued its existence. 3 minutes of captured intimacy that had changed 4 lives forever, though probably not in ways any of the participants had anticipated when they took that stage to sing about islands in the stream. Sometimes the internet shows you exactly what you need to see, even when it's the last thing you want to discover. The key is what you do with that information once you have it. In our case, we chose truth over denial, stability over chaos, authenticity over performance. The viral video that ended one story became the foundation for several better ones. Not because the technology was magical, but because humans are remarkably resilient when they prioritize the right things. Madison stirred in her sleep, murmuring something about microscopes and birthday cake. Tomorrow would bring new adventures, new discoveries, new opportunities to build the kind of family that valued honesty over convenience. The past was preserved in digital amber, but the future remained unwritten, full of possibilities that no algorithm could predict or control. That was perhaps the most important lesson of all, that while the internet never forgets, humans never stop growing, changing, and creating new stories that overshadow old mistakes. The viral video existed forever, but so did love, forgiveness, and the capacity for renewal. And in the end, that's what really mattered.